أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله ثم الحمد لله. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل الله فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وخليل خير الذي اجتباه هدى للعالمين، أرسله بشيرا ونذيرا وسيدا للعالمين كافة. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى: أبدأ بأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah. All praises are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Shakartu lazidannakum. Allah says, if you are grateful and you are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will continue to bless you, and He will continue to give you that which will be a blessing for you in this life. Definitely a blessing for you in the hereafter. Today's khutbah, inshallah ta'ala, it's about kalam, speech. Adab kalam, the etiquette of speech. And speech is what the person says, what he says, or advice he gives to other people, what he says to other people. And sometimes without realizing, he says the person will say something that will gain the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala khalaqa al-insan fi ahsan al-taqweem. In the best, Allah created the human being in the best of modes, in the best of form. Then He blessed him with hearing and seeing and sight. وَزَوَّدَهُ بِمُعْجِزَاتِ الْعَقْلِ. Then He bestowed upon him his intellect. His intellect. And the intellect, al-aql, is this gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the human being to yufarriq bayn al-haq wal-batil, to distinguish between what is true and what is false, what is right and wrong. So this is from the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He blessed the human being with 2 eyes, with 2 ears, and with the 2 ears, it means that you must listen. You must listen more. You must listen more. And then He blessed you with just 1 tongue. And He put this tongue behind its gates. Al-asnan, the teeth. This is the gate, as in the prison. You know, like the tongue is in the prison. It's imprisoned. This is from the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning you must talk less and listen more. But the human being, we like to talk more and listen less. This is our calamity. This is our calamity of the human being, because we like to talk too much and listen less. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He is the one who brought you into being and gave you hearing, sight, and the intellect. Yet you hardly give any thanks. Little are you grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah says, يَحْسَبُ أَن لَّمْ يَرَهُ أَحَدٌ. Does he think that no one sees him? Does he think that no one sees him? And he says in another verse, أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْنِ. Didn't we make for him 2 eyes? وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْنِ. And a tongue and 2 lips. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ نَجْدَيْنِ. And showed him the 2 paths. The ability to distinguish between the 2 paths, between good and evil, right and wrong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He commanded the Muslim, the believer, to take heed of his aqwal, of his statements, what he said. Just like He commanded us to take heed of our actions. And in this, and Ibn Abdul-Aziz, in this hadith, he says, من أدى كلامه من عمله قل كلامه فيما لا يعنيه. Whoever takes account of his words from his deeds, he will speak less about what that doesn't concern him. He will speak less about what that doesn't concern him. And in the famous hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, min husn Islam mar'i tarkuhu ma la ya'ni. This hadith is read by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. And he says, part of the perfection of a person's Islam is his leaving that which is of no concern to him. هذا hadith azim. This is a great hadith by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the foundation of this hadith is in the ta'deed al-nafs, wa tahdheed al-nafs. It's in the disciplining of the nafs. How to discipline the nafs, the ego, the lower self. How to rectify and refine his nafs. And protecting it from those evils. Protecting the lower self from the evils and from its defects. Because if we don't rectify and discipline our nafs, it spreads, it gets stronger like cancer. Like cancer. This is the reality of the nafs. The more the more we feed the nafs, the more we obey the nafs gets stronger and stronger, and then eventually it spreads and overtakes our body. And the soul, our ruh, that Allah created for its worship, for its ma'rifah, to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ruh gets weaker and weaker, yad'af. And the nafs gets stronger and stronger. And this nafs is prone to what? It's prone to evil. The more and more the nafs get stronger and stronger, the more evil you will end up doing. And you'll disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more and more. Right? And you'll become more and more obedient to the waswas of shaitan. You'll become more and more obedient to the waswas, to the whisperings of shaitan. So my brothers and sisters, Imam Shafi, rahimahullah, he says, ثلاثة تزيد في العقل. There are three things that will increase the intellect, that will increase the strength of the intellect. مجالسة العلماء, مجالسة الصالحين, وترك الكلام فيما لا يعني. There are three things that will strengthen the intellect. The first is keeping company of the scholars. And second, keeping company of the righteous. And third, leaving speech or leaving conversations or leaving association that has no concern, that will be no good for you, for your dunya or your akhirah. That will have no good for your dunya or for your akhirah, for your hereafter. This is one of the hikmah, the wisdom statements of Imam Shafi'i. So this hadith I mentioned, min husn isnad mar'i, tarkhu ma la ya'ni. Part of the perfection of a person's Islam is his leaving that which is of no concern to him. This hadith is a foundation of manners, behavior, and etiquette in Islam. Some say this is half of Islam because Islam is either about doing something or abstaining from something. It states that the believer should avoid things that are of no benefit to him in his life or to his hereafter in terms of belief, speech, and or actions. The following four hadith, brothers and sisters, set the main concept for good manners and behavior. The first is the hadith I mentioned in Husn Islam, from the perfection of a person's Islam, is that he leaves that which has no concern for him. The second, let him who believes in Allah on the last day either speak good or keep silent. Man kana yu'minu billahi wa yawm al-akhir فَيَقُولْ خَيْرًا أَوْ لِيَصْمُتْ. Third, so say that which is good, or keep, this is a command, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything. Don't respond. Keep the gates closed. Keep these gates like your tongue is behind closed. Because the nafs that which you're allowed to get out of hand, it wants to speak. It wants to comment on that on that situation. It wants to say something about that person you guys are talking about. And always, the nafs always want to say something. Always wants to respond. Always wants to talk. This is the reality of the nafs. The third is a man said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, counsel me. And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, don't become angry. La tabdab. Don't become angry. But this hadith doesn't mean don't ever get angry. This is one of this is one of the gifts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the human being. A person who never gets angry, the characteristic of this person is like a pig. It's like a pig. The pig, right? The pig, it says the pig, the characteristics of a pig is the pig is in his pigsty. He's eating, he's got all the junk, the food there. And another pig can come and go for his mate. He will never get angry. He will never get upset. He will continue, as long as he continues to eat, he will continue to eat. And it said, oh, la yahumni, it doesn't concern me. But this is not the characteristic of a believer. Allah has blessed us with the characteristic of ghadab, of anger, but not extreme anger. Not extreme anger. You have a scale. There's a scale of extreme and person who never gets angry. No, there has to be a balance. A person who always gets angry or quick to get angry and never forgives when he's angry, this is the worst of individuals. This is the worst of individuals. There has to be a balance. And when you get angry, you have to know how to control that anger. You do not explode. You don't want to kill somebody. You don't want to blow things up. You don't want to set things on fire. Individual get upset at his wife. He comes home and his wife, maybe she burned the food. He blows up. He explodes from his anger. Right? And sometimes what happens when a person gets to the extreme anger, many times, it takes control of his intellect. He can't think straight. And the next thing you know, he hits his wife. He goes hit his wife. He doesn't see behind, in front of his hand, the hand of Shaitan in front of his hand. So he hits his wife, or he hits her too hard. Next thing you know, she falls and accidentally hits her head on the table, and she's dead. Now she's dead. But what can he do? Now he's behind bars and remorsing, getting them. But it's too late. He cannot bring her back. So we have to have control of this anger. And it has to be balanced. We have to have balance with this anger. And this is what happens. This is what has happened. I give a personal example that I myself witnessed. I was in Chicago, and maybe in 2003, and so many Muslims are there. In many of the big cities, what has happened, in many of the big cities where our Muslim brothers and sisters are, they get bullied. They got bullied. And so what they did, they joined with other Muslims, or what Muslims similar has done from the same country, for protection, to protect themselves in the middle schools and high schools, because they were getting bullied. Well, what happened? They were doing this, protecting themselves, but they went to the extreme. They went to the extreme. What was the extreme? Yes, you speak up for yourself, you protect yourself. But what happened, they end up not only coming together, but they formed a gang, a real gang. You go to Chicago, one of the biggest gangs in Chicago is a Muslim gang. Carrying guns, and they're in the prisons, they're filling the prisons. This is the extreme. This is the extreme level. And we don't want to go to the extreme. So it is part of our nature to get angry, to get upset. But we have to have control over that anger. And how we deal with our anger. These are some of the things we have to teach our children, especially those of our children who will go to public schools or go to college. They may get tested by the non-Muslims. They're going to get tested. And how can they deal with their anger? How can they deal with their anger? If they're experiencing trauma and being bullied, what are the best ways? These are the questions we have to ask for our youth and for our children, brothers and sisters. And the fourth hadith is never you truly believe until he wants for his brother what he wants for himself. Does it mean that he doesn't have iman? No, it means that there's weakness in his iman. There's some weakness in his iman. If he doesn't want good for his brother, he wants good for himself, but he doesn't want good for his brother, there's something wrong with his iman. There's some defect in his iman. What should or should not concern you must be looked at from a Sharia point of view and not from your personal point of view or from your desires. A Muslim can't claim that a particular matter is of no concern to him. Whereas from the Sharia point of view, that matter must absolutely be of concern to him or her. The commands of Allah are being violated. When the commands of Allah are being violated, it must concern every Muslim in the world. When we see the sufferings of our Muslim brothers and sisters around the world, we should be concerned about their well-being just as much as we are concerned about ourselves or concerned about our well-being. One of our Muslim brothers, he approached me one day and he mentioned that, why do I not talk about Kashmir? And he's right. We should be talking about Kashmir. They are being killed. They are being massacred. They are being killed and being massacred. And it talks about, and I mentioned, adab of kalam, the etiquette of speech. And he approached me more than once. And he came to me in a respectful manner. The adab, the etiquette of speech. It made me start to think he's right. What can I say? He's right. And one of my other brothers talked to me about what's going on in Rohingya. Another brother talked to me about what's going on with the Uyghurs in China. And they're right. We should not be concerned with only things that only affect us, our personal matters. We are Muslims. Wherever a Muslim is being affected, we should all be concerned. We should all be crying and raising our hands. The least we do is raise our hands to Allah and make dua to Allah. May Allah take away this calamity from them. And our Muslims in Palestine, we all know the apartheid state that they are living in. They're being killed. And I mentioned I'm Muslims in Kashmir since 1947. It's about the same time I was like, Palestinian brothers, what are we doing? We should get angry. But it doesn't mean we go blow up, burn up buildings. No, it means we have to speak up. We have to use the pen, change laws, go to the Congress people, and even go to the White House. Speak truth to power. But the change, I know, brothers, that the change will come from here, from the West. The change in the East will come from here, will come from this land. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا متقبلا يا رب العالمين. It's quite easy for us to stay away from things that don't benefit us. But it's usually not easy to stay away from indulging in speech that is of no benefit to us. Restraining the tongue from excessive, useless, unnecessary speech is one of the biggest inner battles all of us face on a daily basis. The more you indulge in speech that's not relevant to you, the more chances you have of indulging in the afat lisan, those things that will cause destruction because of the tongue, lying, backbiting, slandering, gossip. And sometimes, brothers, you could want to give a good advice. You want to do a good thing, give a good advice, but that advice maybe is not right at that time for that moment. And so you realize you made a mistake. You did the wrong thing. You said the wrong thing because you said it at the wrong time. But you must go to your brother and sister to apologize. To apologize that you give the wrong advice. You said the wrong thing. And you must be able to forgive your brother. At least 70 excuses, you must forgive your brother. If he's sincere, you must forgive him. You must forgive him. And sometimes, brothers, like I said, it's a good advice, but it's not right for that particular individual. For that particular individual, that advice is not right for them. Why? Maybe the person is not a Muslim. It's not a Muslim. And you're trying to give them advice about marriage. Or maybe the person is a Muslim and the wife is not a Muslim. So if he finds out, you give the right advice, but what could happen is that the wife will ask, where did you get that advice from? Oh, you got this from Imam so-and-so. So now you became an enemy for the wife because she's not a Muslim. She become an enemy, and now she's out to malign you and to cause you havoc and to tell lies about you. Why? Because of this advice. Wallahi, I will not give advice anymore to someone who's married to a non-Muslim. I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson from this. You know? So, If they're looking for guidance, I will give them guidance. For personal advice, I will not give them personal advice like this anymore. We have to know how to advise people. And this was the quality of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was the quality of the Prophet. He knew who to give certain advice to. And those who came after them learned from the characteristic of the Prophet, from the lessons and teachings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This person came running. He asked the Sheikh, "Hey Sheikh, if I kill somebody, will Allah forgive me? Will Allah forgive me if I kill someone?" So the Sheikh says no. Who did he get this from? He got this from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, no, Allah will never forgive you. But the reality is, if you commit murder, Allah will forgive all sins, except one sin. That is to worship others besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But why did the Sheikh say to this person, Allah will never forgive you? Because we have to be aware of our surroundings. The Sheikh was aware and cognizant of his surroundings. When the person came running to him, his eyes was bloodshot red. He was angry. He noticed and he realized this person was so angry that if he told him yes, he would have went back and killed the person who he asked about. So he said, no, Allah will never forgive me. Then he calmed down. He calmed down. So this is one of the wisdom of giving advice. We have to, especially giving fatwa, we have to know the situation. A fatwa that is made in another country cannot be made here. It could be it could have a different effect in the West. Fatwa change because of the environment, because of situations, because of time. A fatwa that was made 100 years ago may not apply to this day. So the scholars have to know, those who give fatwa and also those who give advice have to know how to give the correct advice. So may Allah give us the understanding, inshallah. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب القبر وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا عذاب الميزان يا عزيز يا غفور يا غفور رحيم ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير لا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. Brothers and sisters, I think I don't know what the message is, but they want us to probably make dua for their relative. Zuhair Al-Ani and Munir Al-Ani. Inshallah, may Allah purify the relative, inshallah, and give him health, inshallah. May Allah give him strength, inshallah.